Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Fire Your MD Now Radio. Mike Phillip, once again, filling in for Dr. Peter Glidden. He's jetting off to San Diego for a conference. So, for the next 2 hours, you are going to hang out with me. It's Thursday, October 9th, 2014. Call-in line is 844-374-5433. You can actually contact me at mike@teamglidden.ca, and if you have any interesting articles to send the show, any questions, or if you want to get involved with longevity, get your health back, you have health questions, you can get a hold of me at mike@teamglidden.ca. Now, as I get ready to do this show, I peruse a lot of material, and I'm not always looking for specific information, but I like to look for trends, and I'm seeing a trend among sources of information available for doctors where the right to die is being brought up continually. Now, a while back, this was brought to the forefront of media attention by a man named Dr. Jack Kevorkian, and we're going to talk a little bit about him. But first of all, I would like to discuss the Hippocratic Oath. All right, the Hippocratic Oath is an oath historically taken by physicians and physician assistants. It's one of the most widely known of Greek medical texts. It requires a new physician to swear upon a number of healing gods to uphold specific ethical standards of historic and traditional value. The oath is considered a rite of passage for practitioners of medicine in many countries, although nowadays the modernized version of the text varies among them. Scholars widely believe that Hippocrates, often called the father of medicine in Western culture, or one of his students, wrote the oath. Now, there's a few misconceptions running around out there about the Hippocratic Oath, and the most popular is the phrase, do no harm. Okay? That's a misconception. That phrase is believed to have originated with the 19th century surgeon Thomas Inman. Okay? Now, I'm not going to read the entire Hippocratic Oath because it's kind of lengthy, but I'm going to pick out a few parts, and then we're going to look at this guy, Jack Kevorkian. With regard to healing the sick, I will devise and order for them the best diet, according to my judgment and means, and I will take care that they suffer no hurt or damage, nor shall any man's entreaty prevail upon me to administer poison to anyone, neither will I counsel any man to do so. Moreover, I will get no sort of medicine to any pregnant woman with a view to destroy the child. Interesting, huh? Further, I will comport myself and use my knowledge in a godly manner. Whatsoever house I may enter, my visit shall be for the convenience and advantage of the patient, and I will willingly refrain from doing any injury or wrong, from falsehood, and in an especial manner, from acts of an amorous nature. You don't sleep with your patients. Whatever may be the rank of those who it may be my duty to cure, whether mistress or servant, bond or free. So there you have it laid out with you. Doctors are not supposed to hurt anybody. They are not supposed to. They take an oath to never administer any kind of treatment or anything that would hurt a baby inside of a pregnant woman. How many doctors does that sound like to you these days? Now, like I said, I research a variety of topics for things to talk about on this show. And this interests me greatly. And I'm seeing a growing number of physicians talking about end-of-life rights for patients. We're going to start out with Dr. Jack Kevorkian. Now, Dr. Jack Kevorkian, a clip of him speaking with Anderson Cooper on CNN when he got out of jail. He's dead now, but let's roll that clip and listen to what he has to say for himself.
How many people in total did you help die?
It's around 130.
Around?
A little more than 130. Right.
You're not sure of the exact number?
Well, I was helped by a colleague, a psychiatrist, who joined me near the end. The only doctor who offered to join me. In fact, the only doctor who would all cooperate with me.
And the first time you did it, who was the first?
Janet Atkins was the first.
And that was in a van?
In a van.
Why in a van?
I couldn't find a place. I tried nursing homes, churches.
You didn't want to do it at your
clinics.
apartment?
No, because the police would raid the apartment, clean it out. And I didn't want to involve anybody else in it, like the landlord.
I mean, what is that like, to end somebody's life in a van?
Well, you're not ending the life. I didn't do it to end the life. I did it to end the suffering the patient's going through. The patient is obviously suffering. What's the doctor supposed to do? Turn his back? If he's a coward, he is. But
a lot of doctors do, though.
Well, they're cowards. Doctors are cowards. You know that. They won't take anything that's going to hurt their income or their reputation. Anything that's possible, any legal thing that's going to possibly be damaging.
I mean, do you have nightmares about it? Did you ever feel...
No. I don't think a doctor should have a nightmare about any medical procedure, or else he's not a doctor.
Did you find it sad?
Well, of course. You don't like to end a life. Look, if somebody's got a cancer of the bone, of the hip, you don't take the leg off at the joint, in the hip joint, because you want to do it. I said, I'm going to take that leg off. I can't wait to take that leg off. No. The leg has to come off to help save the patient's life. Unfortunately, it entails the loss of a leg.
But a lot of people, as you know, I mean, say, look, you're playing God.
Isn't the doctor who takes a leg off playing God?
You're saying doctors play God all the time?
Of course. Anytime you interfere with a natural process, you're playing God. God determines what happens naturally. That means that when a person's ill, he shouldn't go to a doctor because he's asking for interference with God's will. But of course, patients can't think that way. They want to live as long as possible and not suffer. So they call a doctor to help them end the suffering.
Are you a religious man?
No.
Do you believe in God?
I don't know. Is there a God? Look, I'm a scientist. A doctor is always a scientist.
Do you fear death?
Well, as much as anybody else. I fear it only because I like living so much because I feel good.
If you were ill, if you had a terminal illness and were in pain, would you take your own life?
If it was unending pain and there was no cure, of course. I'm doing this for me. See, it's my natural right. That's in the Constitution, in the 9th Amendment, which is ignored. I have a natural right to do whatever I want with my body. Anything. As long as it doesn't affect anybody else or any other property. And I give myself permission to do it. That's true of anything. I help a patient only with his permission to do what I think is necessary, and it's all laid out in detail to the patient.
Do you think you've had an impact? Do you think you've been successful?
I think this film may have an impact because it's very emotional and very powerful. But it helps the issue, and that's what counts. Whether it helps me or not is irrelevant. And I like that because it helps the issue.
You use different ways of ending people's lives.
Yes.
At first, what did you use?
I had to devise a way to do it. The patient was quadriplegic who wanted a doctor to come and help him die. I says, look, I can help you, but it's illegal. So I've got to find a way to do it legally. And I'll get back in touch with you. And in the meantime, I was working on a way to do it.
So you basically just came up with an idea in your mind to make a machine.
That would save me from having to do it.
So that would allow the person to actually end their own life.
That's right. I would set up the machines, all the solutions and everything, in the intravenous line, and then the patient would hit a switch and start everything flowing.
Later on, you started using a gas.
Yeah, because they took away my license for the controlled substance.
So you couldn't get access to...
So they made it harder for me and harder for the patient. But that didn't bother them. See, they don't care about the patient suffering. See?
So you actually, you would put something over their head and give them a gas?
No, we first tried one case with a thing that I devised over the head of a plastic that's you could see through, transparent.
Right.
But the patient panicked and said, stop it. So I stopped it. We stopped it. And I says, why don't we try this another day? He said, no, do it now. He was determined to end it. He had severe emphysema. And that helps the panic. When you breathe, you have trouble breathing. When you're breathing carbon monoxide gas, When you have carbon monoxide poisoning at night when you're asleep, it doesn't wake you up. You die. In other words, it's not so disturbing that it would wake you up. Therefore, it can't be too disturbing when you take it awake.
And the final patient, Tom Yao.
Yeah.
That case was different. You actually injected him yourself.
That's right.
You actually injected him because you wanted to go to court.
I wanted to bring the case so that I get standing. They can't say they didn't get the particularized case they wanted.
And you thought it would go to the Supreme Court and that basically this would change the law.
Yeah, I hope this go to get. I doubt it, though, because I knew the court's corrupt.
I want to just show a little video that you made prior to the injection.
And we're ready to inject. We're going to inject in your right arm. Okay? Huh? You asleep? He's asleep.
We just killed a guy on live TV.
When you see that, what do you think?
That the law has forced me to do this in the most undignified way.
You think it's undignified?
Of course it is. There's no family there. We're alone, two of us. I can't risk anybody else's life.
You had told his family that they should leave.
You must not be there because they'll try to prosecute you as an accomplice or something. You don't know because they're cruel. The law is cruel. They don't care about the patient. They care about the letter of the law.
Bond is set for $50,000. You going to pay that today?
Oh, that is beyond egregious, Your Honor. There is no way I'm going to pay a bond like that, Your Honor. You can forget it. You can forget it. Because this is the last time you people unjustly take away from me my liberty. I need a last time, Your Honor. And I will not, hear me now, I will not eat.
Welcome back to Fire Your MD Now Radio. Now, before that break, we played a clip of Dr., and I hate to use that word in front of his name, Jack Kevorkian. And in that little speech that he gave to Anderson Cooper, by the way, at the end of the clip, there was a movie made about him, and that was part of that movie. And Jack Kevorkian was played by Al Pacino, who thanked him for his great work. Now, Kevorkian wanted to talk about your right to die. And it's kind of ridiculous to begin with because I can go out in the garage, shut the door, and turn the car on anytime I want. I want to live. But what about your right to have information that you could act on so that you would never get to the terminal illness in the first place? And how many times did he break the Hippocratic Oath in that little speech? He downed religion. He talked about religious reasons why people don't want this, but the rest of the world does. Religion has nothing to do with it. Okay? In fact, most religious people I've met, or Christians in particular, want health and they want the truth. So you have a right to die, fine. What about your right to have access to information that could drastically improve your quality of life and not have to watch a loved one suffer for 4 years of chemoradiation therapy? What about your right not to have diabetes in the first place because you learned something so easy that you could have learned it in grade 4 health class and you never had to get diabetes to begin with? What about that right? What about the right to use whatever treatment you want for yourself or your kids? What about that right? He never mentions that. He goes into how doctors are cowards, and I wholeheartedly agree with it. But you know what? Dr. Wallach is no coward. Dr. Glidden is no coward. Those things I read off in the Hippocratic Oath, I've never, ever, ever known, seen, or heard Dr. Glidden violate them at any time. And this guy got big press. Now, to his credit, he served 8 years in jail, and he did it like a man. But now, medicine is bankrupting the country. Whether you live in the United States, Canada, the UK, Australia, it's all the same. I mean, here in Edmonton, I was watching Global News the other morning. They were talking about patients suffering from terminal illnesses and chronic diseases are having to sleep on couches in waiting rooms because they have no beds. Well, I know a way that they could send those people home and they'd have all kinds of beds. I know of a way we could almost completely cut type 2 diabetes out of our society. Save billions and millions and trillions of dollars every year. It's easy. Joe in Fort Worth, Gisette in Israel, and Karen in Florida. You just hang on right where you are. I just got a few points to make, and we're going to get to your calls. Now, I go to medscape.com. That's a site for doctors. Okay? This is information by doctors, for doctors. Now listen to this. Special report. Physician-assisted dying. Is resistance eroding? Physician-assisted death gets a second look in the post-Kevorkian era. That's one article. I'm just going to read you some headlines. Great Britain ponders physician-assisted suicide. Poll. How would you vote on physician-assisted suicide? And I'm going to read you those numbers, and they're scary. Have we overlooked palliative care as an answer to a patient's suffering? Developing a physician-assisted suicide program. Physician-assisted suicide, a clinician's perspective. Physicians are talking. Why should we assist in suicide? Physician-assisted suicide, only a last resort. And it gets pretty repetitive, doesn't it? So you're so bad at your job, and you're not willing to admit it, so we'll just kill the patient. It's not our fault they're sick, it's theirs. You gotta blame the victim, right? Now, do you approve or disapprove of physician-assisted suicide for terminally ill patients? This is a poll taken by doctors. Strongly approve, 54%. Somewhat approve, 17%. Strongly disapprove, 24%. If you live outside the United Kingdom, would you want physician-assisted suicide to be legalized in your country if it's not already illegal? 69%. Yes, that's doctors. They're voting to kill you because they suck at their job. We'll be back with your calls. Mike Phillips filling in for Dr. Peter Glidden back after this. Welcome back to Fire Your MD Now Radio. Mike Phillips filling in for Dr. Peter Glidden, and I promised I'd take your calls after my long-winded little opinion rant about physician-assisted suicide. And I'm not done with that. I'm going to get into some of those articles because I want to pull the lid off this attitude that is gaining more and more ground. And what it is really is you are seen as an economic unit. And if somebody has to lose $10 to keep you alive, guess what? Let's go over to Joe in Fort Worth. How you doing, Joe?
Can you hear me?
I hear you just great. Joe, what's going on?
I have an autistic son. He's got pica.
Oh, so you catch him eating dirt and stuff?
No, he eats the house.
He eats the house, okay.
Sheetrock, wallboard. We put concrete wallboard over the holes where he punched holes in the sheetrock to eat the sheetrock. He does that for two reasons. He does it because he's in very, very severe bowel disorder pain. He bumps his head through the sheetrock. There's times he just punches a hole through the sheetrock just to eat the sheetrock.
Right.
He has sleep disorders. He's on Pentasa and Endicort for these bowel disorder problems.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Pica, he has. Well, let's put it this way: 27 months, he got 7 vaccines, and he ain't never been the same since. It destroyed him.
Yeah, you know what? And I hear this all the time, Joe, all the time. And I think, quite honestly, if he'd have been born nutrified and the pregnancy was normal and everything, like there, lack of nutrients, iron deficiency, zinc deficiency, things like that have been identified in Pica cases, but. Yeah, when you take somebody that's already minerally deficient in their body from birth and then you pump a bunch of foreign agents and mercury adjuvants into a person, yeah, I definitely think that it has an effect. Now, Dr. Wallach doesn't think so, but the fact is kids are getting almost 400% more vaccines now than they did 20 years ago. So, sorry to interrupt you there, Joe, but yeah, I'm on board with you there.
What our main problem is he wants to chew everything. I mean, it doesn't matter what it is, he'll chew it, he'll eat it.
Yeah, he's really craving minerals is what's happening, Joe.
Yeah, and I listened to that one you guys did with Jess, and I've always been told there's nothing you can do about pica. You know, but indeed, there's just nobody really knows what to do about it.
Yeah, I've always been told there is nothing you can do about diabetes or cancer or bone and joint pain, but I've seen all those things melt away using Dr. Wallach's protocols, so you're in good company here, Joe. And tell me this, how old is this boy and how much does he weigh?
He's 24 now. He's about 140 pounds, 145.
140 pounds. Okay, so you mentioned that he has a bowel disorder.
Oh God, he's got a horrible bowel disorder. Well, we went years without getting the real kind of help we needed, because we just went to gastroenterologist and they would do like an upper and lower GI and they wouldn't find anything except fissures, because he'd go like every fourth or fifth day, and then this big, huge, giant grapefruit would come out of him. Mm-hmm. Anyway, it caused fissures in his tail, and they said, well, that's the only way we can find. It's very painful, but that doesn't describe the kind of pain you're talking about. We said, well, we heard you can only find this if you do a pill cam. Well, finally we got a pill cam done after two decades, and it revealed 14 and a half inches of red raw bleeding ulcers. He got to the point where he wouldn't even eat food anymore. We didn't know why. And that's why, because he had 14 and a half inches of red raw bleeding ulcers in him. While we waited to see, this is how incompetent these people are. We waited 6 months to see a gastroenterologist before we got to this gastroenterologist that was able to do the pill cam. And this is what she told us. She says, what makes you think your child is feeling pain? Well, it's like this, doctor. He starts screaming, no, 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 mama, no, no. And then all of a sudden, it's like somebody's peeling the skin off his body while he's alive, or dousing him with kerosene. He starts screaming louder and louder. And then he latches onto the table. And he bites onto the table until his gums bleed. She said, oh, these children, they just have bad autistic behavior.
You know what? Oh, man, she should have been slapped. You know what? The same thing used to happen to me, Joe. I used to take my wife to the doctor because, she was crying herself to sleep at night, and we would go to a pain specialist or a rheumatologist. And my wife doesn't do drugs. She's a very upstanding. She's the president of the Chamber of Commerce, for God's sake. And the doctor would accuse her of lying to get drug prescriptions, and I would listen to her cry herself to sleep. So it's really maddening, and I bet you it wasn't cheap, hey, Joe?
No, it wasn't cheap. And the thing is, it's not cheap for this nation. These kids are costing this country a fortune. Each child that has autism is right at around $6 million each, and that's if they're left untreated. If they're treated, it even goes higher, $20 to $50 to $100 million lifelong care costs on these kids. And
it's unreal.
Remember what you was talking about earlier was physician-assisted suicide.
Yeah.
This country is going to try to they're probably going to pull that rabbit out of the hat, because the children now are 1 in 50 kids now has autism, 1 in every 31 boys. In the next 10 years, it's been estimated by an MIT professor that if it keeps going at the rate it's going now, in 10 years, by 2025, you're going to have 1 in 2 children autistic.
Well, they are pulling that rabbit out of the hat, because they never come right out and say what they're going to do, but they do. But they pose it as a question. Is resistance crumbling to physician-assisted suicide? But like I said, on a website by doctors, for doctors, right off the bat, I found 8 articles in a row on whether or not doctors should legally be allowed to kill. And if they can't do their job, they can't admit that their treatments are juvenile, ineffective, deadly, and hurting kids, hurting women, hurting men, then they'll just say, well, we need to kill them off because it's too expensive to not help them, and they're in pain because of our screw-up in the first place. And then, so we got people like you out there, Joe. And this information has been around for a long time. And like I said, right to die, what about the right to know what to do in the first place and have a happy, healthy child the way that God intended?
Well, the reason you don't is because of pharma. Pharma has these people wrapped around their little fingers. My God.
They do.
They control they don't only control the doctors, they control the the publications out there that control all of them. I mean, my God, Merck had Elsevier create them five fake journals. Now, that's amazing. 5 fake journals? Why do you need 5 fake journals? And even Elsevier admitted to it reluctantly, but they admitted to it that they had created them 5 fake journals. That's so that they can put anything they want in their journal and not be contested. It's amazing.
Well, that's just it. That's just it. But you know what? The blind lead the blind. They'll both fall in a ditch, right, Joe? I mean,
that's what the Word of God says.
That's where it comes to. And so, you know, if you're out there and you're just going to blindly accept whatever they say, no matter how stupid it is and how much pain it's causing and how much suffering, then ultimately you're going to get what you deserve. And I hate to put it that way, but it is a fact. Your quality of life, and not only you, but your children and your family and your community, is going to be completely predicated on what information your God-given brain is able to receive and what you're willing to do about it. Now, a lot of people talk about how the nation is going down the drain, and I'm actually in Western Canada, Joe, but it's the same situation up here. I'm seeing exactly what you're talking about. 2 different countries, same situation. And a lot of people talk about it. They talk about, well, there's a new world order. We got to do something about the government. Well, what are you doing about it? Well, I'll tell you what I'm doing about it. I'm talking to people like Joe and people in my family and community, and we are getting our health back, and we're backing away from the death machine that is called Big Pharma and Western medicine in general. It's a death machine. I mean, they're talking about legalizing physician-assisted suicide. Well, they kill people every day to the tune of about 800,000, 1 million people a year. I mean, between bad drug prescriptions, botched surgeries. I've got a story in here about people are getting drug-resistant E. coli from colonoscopies now. I mean, if there ever was another reason not to let a doctor stick a camera up your rear end, I can't think of a better one. But, Joe, what's important right now, we've been ranting a little bit. Let's talk about this son of yours. You mentioned he has this bowel disorder. First of all, as I read in the Hippocratic Oath, one of the first things that he talked about was his patient's diet. Okay? So we really focus on diet and the things that people are eating here. Now, number 1, your son needs to be put on a gluten-free diet, no matter what you and your wife have to do. That is number 1, numero uno. That's something you can start today. Okay? Now, how are those ulcers doing? Have they subsided at all, or?
Well, we haven't gone back to let him do another pill cam to see if and pill cam is really it's very safe because all you do is swallow it. The camera, it goes through the body, takes pictures, and,
right?
And it sends this message to this little fanny pack that the kid wears all day long. But we haven't been back yet. We're going to go back here probably in the next month or so, and we're going to find out then. Hopefully it's a little better. Actually, it's a lot better because he's able to eat now. He got to where he couldn't eat anything. We had to go on $55 a day, something called Elecare. It's like a formula for an adult, and he had to drink that stuff, and that wasn't easy to get him to drink that, I promise you. And these kids are very, very narrow on their diet anyway. I mean, you're only going to get them to eat what they're not. They'll starve to death. Their brain will tell them, "I'm not eating that." But for one thing, whatever happens in these kids' brains when they get the encephalopathy that causes this from the vaccine, it causes a heightened sense of smell. And whereas you and me might not like, might like something by the way it smells, it may smell putrid to him.
Right.
But anyway, getting back to what's wrong with him, do y'all have anything to cover that?
Yeah, do you think you could turn off that other phone, Joe?
Yeah.
That's pretty loud on my end. Okay, so, yeah, there's a few things you can do. Okay, first of all, we want to get the proper amount of minerals, vitamins, and amino and fatty acids, first off the bat, into this. He's a man, he's 24, and what you're going to want to do, because he's had these stomach disorders, we have health packs but I want you to write this down. I want you to go outside of that a little bit, okay? I don't want you to use the regular Healthy Start pack, because if he's had issues in his stomach, that might cause a little bit of havoc because of the citrus and the Beyond Tangy Tangerine. What I want you to do, Joe, you got a pen?
Yeah, I got one.
There's a product called Ultimate Classic. Okay, Ultimate Classic. I want you to get him 2 bottles of Ultimate Classic. I hear the music, and that means we're coming up on a break. But I know exactly where we're at, Joe, and we're going to come back to you on the other side of the commercials. Gisette in Israel, Dave in Toronto, Kyle in California, Karen in Florida. Stay where you're at. We're finished up with Joe. We'll get over to you. Mike Phillip filling in for Dr. Peter Glidden. We'll be back after this. Welcome back. We're live. Mike Phillip filling in for Dr. Peter Glidden. Before the break, we're talking to Joe in Fort Worth, and I was about to rattle off a few things that he could give his son to help him restore his body. Now, the funny thing about the body, it always wants to fix itself. It's always trying to fix itself. But if it runs out of a mineral, vitamin, or amino and fatty acid, it starts to break down. And then you have situations where, you know, this man, he's 24, is in so much pain, that adds to the stress, and that depletes you even further. And these knucklehead doctors have nothing, and they're so bad at their job, they have to turn around and say, it's not really happening, he's just making it up. Meanwhile, they take their son home, and he's in pain. And no parent can stand that. Well, before the break, I was telling you, Joe, if you still got that pen out, 1 bottle of Ultimate Classic. All right? 1 bottle of Beyond OsteoFX. All right? Now, I want you to get this guy 2 bottles of EFA+. That's his amino and fatty acids, okay? Now, on top of that, 2 bottles of Cherry Mints. Now, for his digestive issues, you're going to add to that 1 bottle of Ultimate Enzymes. All right? Now, Joe, who did you hear about the show through?
I got it on the net, believe it or not. I was just looking up stuff to help.
All right.
Get these things.
I'll tell you what, Joe, I'm going to give you an email address. All right, it's mike@teamglidden.ca. That's mike@teamglidden, GLIDDEN.ca. I want you to shoot me an email, Joe, and I'm going to deal with you personally on this, okay? I'm going to show you how to get this stuff at cost, and so you can get it without paying the shipping. Sound good?
Sounds great. I appreciate it.
All right. Yeah, let's see what we can do. This is going on long enough.
Yeah, it is.
All right, Joe, thanks for calling. Get in touch with me, and I will shoot you back an email after the show here. And we are going to jump over to Israel. Gisette, how you doing?
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
You're on the air. What's going on?
I have a question before about terminal disease like HIV/AIDS,
HIV.
hypertension, and heart problem. All of these diseases, do you have nutritional supplement to help out with? For example, in the case of heart disease, if the person is dealing with a mitral valve, aortic valve, band, where you have a restriction of the blood flow, like the blood doesn't go through the valve properly.
Yeah.
Do you have anything that can help out, to restore that valve?
Yeah, listen, for a bad heart valve, if anything, your heart is a muscle, okay?
Yeah.
Now, if a muscle is not working properly, that boils down to a couple of things, okay? Mm-hmm. Now, a calcium deficiency will cause funky muscles. Your heart is a muscle. Mm-hmm. All right, so do you have muscle twitches anywhere else in your body or joint pain?
I have joint pain, severe joint pain lately.
Yeah, so, you've got... Yeah, it's a classic calcium deficiency, and there are ways that you can get that into your body. And once your body gets what it needs, it will just start to fix itself. Now, how much do you weigh, Gisette?
150.
150? Okay, so what I would do for a heart issue, I'm going to get into that on the other side of this break. Gisette, you stay right where you are, and then we're going to get over to David in Toronto, wants to talk about Dr. Brzezinski. Interesting subject I've been looking into lately. Kyle in California, Karen in Florida, stay where you are. Mike Phillip filling in for Dr. Peter Glidden. We'll be back after this.